Ready to take your music to the next level? Tune in to the Sound Strategies podcast. Let's keep you, the artist, in the driver's seat of your musical journey.
Welcome to the Sound Strategies podcast. I'm Ethan Clift, your host. I'm the CEO of Tonic Audio. We are a remote collaboration app for musicians, and we are here to support artists. That's our primary goal, really, is to support artists and their journeys, and we want to be alongside them wherever they want to go. So today we have a guest for you guys. She's absolutely fantastic. She's been in the industry for a couple of decades now and has experience with big names like Nirvana and many others. And I'm so thrilled and honored that she's coming on today. And her name is Wendy Griffiths, and she owns Truly Music, and she is a sync licensing executive. Emma Ward is joining us today from Luna Echo, and she is an artist who is looking to take it to the next level. So she's going to be asking questions of Wendy and digging into what is sync licensing all about, what is the fastest path to get there, and all that good stuff. So Wendy, let's start by telling us a little bit about your journey. I know that you've been in the industry a long time. You've been inside of the big three, and you've worked with tons of people at all levels, and now you're out on your own again. And I'd love to know kind of the backstory on how that came to be.
Well, first of all, it is a pleasure and honor to be on your podcast, Ethan. I've really been looking forward to this. And Emma, pleasure to meet you. And I'm really excited about getting to hear your new music that's coming up and getting to know you better. And really looking forward to this Q&A today. Yes, I'm a lifer. I sound, I've been doing this. I hate to date myself, but this is my 40th year in the music business. I started when I was 18. I'm not proud, but I am a USC dropout. I'm not encouraging anybody to drop out of school. However, I got what is known as, quote unquote, a foot in the door. I was taking audio engineering. I knew somebody. I love music. I knew someone was making the records, but I had no idea that there were marketing teams behind them. So I thought I was going to be an audio engineer, a producer. I was out in Pasadena taking audio engineering classes, TV production. This is before there was music business programs at USC, before there was all these graduate programs. I just knew someone made the music and I was going to figure out how to go make records and be in music. And then I realized, oh, wow, I have to stay awake all night, stay in the studio, be up all night. I'm like, I can't do that. I'm a night owl. I'd love to go out and listen to music, but I've got to find another way to get into the business. And I met a young woman, and her father worked at Warner Brothers Records, and he ran the production studio. So we were down in the basement, and I got my foot in the door in 1985. I was an independent contractor. I dropped out of college. I made $6 an hour, and I was making copies. For those of you that are old enough to remember, I think it was the SNL skit that Adam Sandler had about making copies. So I was downstairs making copies of music videos back when betas and 3/4 inches and 2 inches and VHSs many, many years ago. And it was incredible. I was, seeing, the first, rough cuts of Madonna videos and Prince videos and New Order videos and Depeche Mode. And I also loved hard rock. So I was, getting to record MTV and in the vaults on ladders, late at nights, looking up the Van Halen masters and trying to find music videos and content videos from my favorite bands that I listened to as I was a youngster. Again, this is when I was like 18. So I worked multiple jobs. I got my foot in the door there, and I literally worked my way up. I started in video. I was in the basement for a couple of years, very, very happy to be working, 6 hours a week and then 10 hours a week. And it just slowly evolved. And then I moved upstairs into the video promotion department, where my job was to physically send and submit music videos to MTV. So probably many of you know MTV as a place where you watch a lot of reality television. But back in the day, MTV is where you discovered bands. We would tune in at Friday at 8 p.m. You'd tune into MTV and watch a music video premiere. It was like, event television, knowing that whether it was Flock of Seagulls or, for me, Van Halen Jump, we were all waiting to see Eddie Van Halen play keyboards for the first time because he was such a rock god. So my job was literally the submission forms, like typing. Back when typewriters, I was typing, Madonna like a virgin, typing up the submission form, the director, the length of the video description, and physically FedExing, overnighting a actual tape to MTV's operations center. So you can imagine what it was like when it was like, snowing and sleet and bad weather on the East Coast, and trying to track down a music video that had been lost or delayed, and you had a major premiere that was happening. So you just get 85, 86, 87. And I just worked my way up from there. I spent 25 amazing years there. I really, through that, I really didn't have a lot of mentors. I worked with some amazing people and amazing women and men, but I really didn't have anybody kind of really teaching me the ropes. So I just jumped in and built my relationships. And I pretty much did every position in my department. They call it your coordinator, then your manager, your associate director, VP, senior VP. Like I just climbed my way up, working really, really hard, asking questions, learning, and building my relationships with the people at MTV and VH1 who made the decisions about what music videos got played. And then when MTV stopped playing music videos, I transitioned over to synchronization, which is what I do now, which is the placement when you're watching television, film, video games, ads, and generally we all skip through the ads, but now I stop and watch the ads and I listen for music. My job is to synchronize and pitch my music to the music supervisors, who then get the music off to the editors and the directors, who then make the final decisions. So that's kind of a quick snapshot of my career over the last 40 years. And I also, in between that, I worked at a major publishing company, BMG. I oversaw probably a 35-person department there, worked with the estates of Nirvana. I worked with Chris Cornell, Soundgarden, Bruno Mars. I was the Johnny Cash estate. It was an incredible experience working for a publisher. I loved it. And then I really kind of honed my skills, having worked at a label and then at a publishing company. So there was a long answer to your question.
Wow, what a journey, Wendy. You've been on such an amazing journey. So tell us, what was your favorite? I'm so curious. This is just a deep in the marrow of my bones curiosity that I have. What is your favorite sync licensing deal that you've ever done?
Good question. Tough question. A couple things that our department did was, back in the day at BMG, we created, there was an up and coming artist at Universal Republic. Her name was Lorde. And we happened to have the Tears for Fears catalog. And one of my colleagues in the department, Sarah Connolly, had the idea, why don't we take and let's have Lorde cover Tears for Fears, Everybody Wants to Rule the World. And we went and did that when no one knew who she was. And needless to say, that went on to get a lot of placements. And we were so proud of getting her so early. And I think we got to a point with that copyright, the Tears for Fears copyright, where we actually, Lorde became so famous, we began to kind of pull back on that and stop licensing the track because it was getting almost overexposed while they were trying to promote her album. So that's sort of a creative thing that we did. But I think one of the things that I love is actually really a current one, where we created a custom. There's a Charles Wright song, by the way, vintage music from the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, almost into the 90s, is considered, decade-specific vintage music. And we went in, hold on, just totally lost my train of thought. Okay, hold on, edit. Okay, so one of my favorite syncs of recent is we went in and took a Charles Wright copyright called Express Yourself. I'm not going to sing it, but you can find it on Spotify or whatever streaming service you listen to. And the Holiday Inn wanted a modern version of a vintage song, a modern take. So a lot of what branding in sync is about is taking a song that's recognizable or has a great lyrical content and making people in 2023 want to listen to it and make it perk up their ears. So you're taking an older song and making it sound current. So we did a cover of it. It's been airing in a Holiday Inn Express Yourself spot for the last year. It just got renewed for another 6 months here and in the UK. And so I'm really, really proud of that one because it was an idea. We married the right composer that is connected with Truly Music with the copyright. And we went in and basically nailed that custom. I think we only had 2 revisions and the client fell in love with it and they keep renewing it. So that's been a really kind of rewarding one.
That's awesome.
Okay.
Ethan, you're on mute.
Thank you. So it seems like it's not just like an administrative position doing sync licensing in the background, being a super connector, but it's also like being creative and kind of seeing the trends and the future of music and sort of having a gut instinct on who to put together with who, as well as
Exactly. Exactly. So, in this situation, we had a completely unknown artist record the track. I had a hot producer who knew how to go in and get that sound. We listened to the original, and then you think about who you have in your arsenal that would be a great creative fit for it. So in certain situations, again, as I get to know Emma and her music, you're always thinking about the vocalist, the producer, the style of music. Is it Americana? Is it pop? Is it urban, hip hop? What's the client? What's the supervisor looking for? And then we go in and we start to marry, and we send submissions, and send suggestions to the supervisors of clients and artists and singer-songwriters that are in our catalog, and let them listen to their voices and listen to their styles. Again, this is when I'm talking about a custom or I have someone go in and do a cover. But generally, the bulk of what we do is submit music every day for television shows, video games, sports, ads, trailers, promos. And we've got I think we probably have close to 10,000 songs in our catalog right now. We work with developing artists that are unknown. And then we also work with some of the biggest, we've got with Marshmello, Alesso. I work with an amazing artist named Skylar Grey, who wrote Eminem and Rihanna's Love the Way You Lie and Monster. Really great artist. I love him, Drew Holcomb, who's just an Americana ass kicker. He's amazing. His album just came out last week. Great band called Judah and the Lion that I love. So just really proud of the roster that we've built over we're in our 5th year right now.
Wow. Amazing. So Emma, why don't you jump in? I know you can't wait to get your questions answered by Wendy. So why don't you start and we can just see how the conversation evolves and just see how much value we can get out of this conversation for just not just Emma, but for artists who are listening to this podcast who are also interested in getting into sync licensing and just don't know where to start. Hit it, Emma.
Yeah, so I am very much at the phase where I am trying to take this from being a hobby into, evolving this into a career. And so I'm just curious, for an artist like myself, who's trying to break into sync licensing, where do we start? And what does that path from step 1 to getting placed look like?
Okay, great question. There's a lot of ways to answer that, but I'm going to start with, I think, the most basic and simple initially, which is really kind of honing your craft, realizing as songwriters, as producers, engineers, creatives, top line, really realizing where your strengths are and creating, even if it means partnering with other musicians and creatives to put the best music forth. You really want to feel good about the direction of your band and what your identity is and what your music stands for, kind of what lane you're in. And that doesn't mean that you have to pick a lane. It just means you really, I think that image is obviously incredibly important. It's so fun right now with Instagram. Back in the day, we had one music video, the second music video, the third video, that was it. Now it's just infinite. It's 24/7. So I think artists can have so much fun with their image. But at the end of the day, it's really about the music, right? It's really about the quality of the songwriting. But if you've got great songs, but the production's lacking, you're not going to be able to hold up against these other artists who are signed to majors. And I, having been at two majors, Warner Brother Records and B&G, we're pitching music. So a developing artist music needs to kind of hold up, but that doesn't mean that we don't love some killer indie garage rock, right? And so many artists are making music in their bedroom and are hugely successful. So it really comes down to just great songwriting.
Yeah,
and we can kind of take it from there.
I mean, that makes a ton of sense. Yeah, and I'm curious, so when you're working with like a new client and you're looking through their portfolio and kind of trying to perceive what their brand is and everything, like what are some of the most important things that, you're looking through as you're starting to dig into all that and get a feel for who they are?
Right. Great question. So a lot, it's really kind of true, the saying, it's sort of the people and that getting a foot in the door, and also that kind of treat people the way you want to be treated, because the music business is very, very small. Everyone knows each other. It's very easy to, let me start this over. The music business is very small. It's, I have to start this question over. Sorry.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Ask me the question again. What are some things?
Yeah.
Ask me the question again. Sorry, Ethan. Sorry.
You're totally cool. We can edit all this.
Yeah. So the question was about suggestions for an artist, right?
Yeah. I'm just curious, so when you're, when you're first getting a chance to look at all their material and stuff, like what are you looking for? What looks like success when you're looking through a portfolio?
Okay. So often what happens is, companies such as myself, we do listening sessions. We get inundated with a lot of music. So knowing someone like Ethan who can introduce you and help you get a foot in the door and help make a recommendation or a referral is one of the best ways. That's why I always tell people, treat people the way you'd like to be treated. And remember, the music business is very small and everyone knows one another. So initially, if you know someone who knows someone who knows someone, right? Even if you're 3 degrees of separation, that's going to help you. There's some amazing classes out there right now. There's a company called the number 2 Indie, and they teach these amazing master classes. It's a monthly subscription service. And I tell artists such as yourself to go jump on, pay the low monthly subscription, and be part of a sync community where everybody's learning, sharing. They have assignments, you're playing music, you're working on songs. Sync agents such as myself come in and do listening sessions, and we kind of A&R and critique the submissions. And often I go into these sessions and I discover talent, right? I found this really killer rockabilly guy a couple weeks ago, and we just didn't have a lot of rockabilly. And as soon as the music started, I was like, I love him. And I chatted him up in the chat room. So I really encourage you and other artists to get involved in some of these online classes that are happening, because they've got so many supervisors that come in and sync agents that come in. That's one way to do it. And then another way is, I guess I call it sort of, polite emailing, being politely persistent. Cold calling, cold emailing can be difficult, but I have to tell you, I'm on my Instagram a lot, and if someone is like hearting, liking my stuff, or someone sends me a DM and I've got a little bit of quiet time, I actually, I discover artists on Instagram a good amount of time. And then what I do is I, of course, right away run to their Spotify, and it's okay if they have the under, 1,000 listeners. It just allows me to get a sense of how early they are in their career. And if I see that someone's got 500,000 followers, I'm going to maybe assume that they've got a label deal. If I see they have 100,000, maybe they're still an independent artist. So I look at all that on social media, but it does not determine if I sign somebody or not. It comes down to the quality of the music and the style and the delivery and the production. So we do, and you can get into record companies and what they're doing these days to kind of the data that they're looking at, which is often frustrating because these artists have got to have, 1 million streams and a certain amount of followers before a lot of record companies even pay attention. And I just, I'm going to bring up Kurt Cobain, someone's going to miss the next Nirvana if they're waiting for data
Right.
on a band, and that part, it really bothers me about the business now. If you're not on Spotify, you're not streaming, you don't have huge numbers, you can't get signed. But the good news is you don't need a label anymore. You can do it yourself. You just need some experts around you. And I think what Ethan is doing on her platform is fantastic for helping developing artists get the chances and opportunities that they need by meeting people such as myself and the other guests that he has on.
Yeah, it's so huge. And I've definitely kind of heard echoes of that from a little bit on the outside of the industry, but, especially with TikTok becoming such the gold standard for social media now and building followers, it's almost like they, these labels especially expect you to have millions of followers before they kind of even raise an eyebrow. They want to, see that you can be successful before they invest. And so I think seems very different than, how the industry was before social media.
Yeah, it's lazy to me, I mean, I remember at Warner Records, Tom Whalley jumping on a plane. I don't know if he flew to Germany, the Netherlands. He flew to see this really gnarly, awesome metal band called Mastodon, and he got on the plane and he flew there and he listened and he saw and he was able to sign the band, and the band knew that he flew across the world to come see them. And, I just feel like it's so important to see a band live and to really feel it and to watch the fans and watch how people are reacting to the music. I go to shows still after 40 years and I stop and I look behind me, I look all around and I just watch the people reacting to the band I may be working or that I'm thinking about working with. And I feed off of that energy. So I do feel that you've got to do all this. It's a necessary evil. I'm working with these clients whose managers, I mean, they can be working with some of the biggest managers in the business. And these kids are like, I am sick and tired of like having to go onto my TikTok and my Instagram and constantly be feeding information and doing shit, freaking what you're eating for breakfast and what color shampoo you're using or whatever you're doing. Like, it's rough. It's rough on you guys right now, but that's why I try to give artists a chance, because I remember what it was like and what it's really about.
Yeah. Well, and I know, I've met a lot of artists that are kind of in the same position as me. They just don't know how to break in or how to like put themselves out there and start to build an audience. And so, not that I can speak for all of them, but I know for myself, like having somebody on the inside that can kind of, take you under their wing and point you in the right direction and help you kind of see a path for you and your particular band and the brand that you guys have is invaluable. Everybody has a computer now, and it's pretty easy to make decent quality music nowadays. And so there's pros to that. Like you were saying, you don't need to have necessarily like a large scale record label behind you to get your music out there. But then there's also more competition in a way. And so I love what you said about, making those personal connections and how you're like in the crowd, like looking at how the band is, performing and how the crowd's reacting. I think that's so cool. And I'm glad that like that grassroots approach to finding talent is still alive and well with you. So
and I know that good A&R people are out there, managers, people are out there doing their job. It's the sell they have to do when they go back to their bosses. They have to sell it to their bosses, and that's where I think it's really tough on a lot of A&R people and scouts these days. But we can talk about this later, but I step in and I do workshops and I do consulting, and I'm really trying to kind of make myself available because it's so fun to give back and to teach and to help people. And I forget that, you just need to know someone, right, to get a foot in the door and to get a chance. What I love about having my own company is that I can kind of work with, anyone we want to, really. And you don't have to be at a certain level. And a lot of sync agencies out there, and there's a lot of us. will give so many artists a chance, right, without having to have a certain number of followers or streaming happening. And I do want to do a shout out for the Guild of Music Supervisors, GMS, Guild of Music Supervisors. They have something called the Friend of the Guild. And for $100 a year, you can join. And again, I have no connection except I'm a friend of the Guild. And you can join and you get invited to all these amazing screenings, events. There's Zooms with supervisors. There's an award show. There's a conference. And the Guild of Music Supervisors is a really great way to go, show up, attend panels, and listen, and get questions answered, and watch these really killer panels happening with some of your favorite supervisors from these television, or supervisors you may not even know from your favorite television shows that you're watching or streaming. So the Guild is a great way. Attending conferences, music conferences, I should mention, is really great way to connect and network and meet people. You just have to kind of put on that face, and if you're a little bit shy, you have to sort of like pretend and walk up to people and just be friendly, and everybody's there to meet and socialize and connect. But music conferences are a great way to get into the music business, into the industry.
Yeah, that's great to know. I can definitely relate with the being a little shy part, and you kind of just have to go for it and get outside of your comfort zone, and because otherwise, how are you supposed to make those connections with people? So that makes
I tell people, like, I've been doing, like I said, in this 40 years, I was only 18 years old. I was young, and I was a young adult. I was a young adult. I was a female in a heavy male driven business, and I pretty quickly became, a vice president of video promotion dealing with MTV. I was one of the sole people responsible for getting my music videos played, and I had a lot of managers to account to, and I had the entire record company to account to. And initially I didn't know what the hell I was doing, so it's that fake it till you make it, like write it down, make notes, like practice what you're going to say. Like I was pretty rough on myself because I was so young, and I was somewhat of an introvert and just not comfortable kind of speaking in front of a large group. But you get more comfortable the more you do it, and then you eventually tell yourself, no one is thinking about this. I'm the one that's in my own head about it, and you just have to take this. And I bring it up because a lot of musicians and artists can be introverted.
Right.
When you express yourself through your music and your creativity, and you take on almost a different persona, or it's how you are able to express yourself. And being introverted is fine because you create your art and you share it that way. There's just times when you have to just kind of, like I said, put that facade on and be like, all right, I'm here. I'm going to like drink my coffee, my tea, whatever I got to do. And I'm going to just walk up and start saying hello to people, or go with a partner, go with somebody, and the two of you tag team it together. You just kind of motivate each other. You sort of work the room, as they say.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm sure you've seen many artists who have come to you very introverted and probably a little bit afraid to be, in the spotlight in those ways, and watching them transform over the years and as their audience is growing and they're gaining more success. I mean, just watching that evolution of a person in general, I imagine is pretty amazing. I'm curious, you mentioned some really big names. When I was growing up, Depeche Mode was actually one of my favorite bands. They really inspired me a lot. I'd say it was between them and Radiohead were my two biggest influences.
Cool. You're lucky you get to still see them play live. Yeah, I worked really closely with Depeche.
Yeah, just their creativity and sound design just blew me away. Like nobody sounded like them. They were so creative in the studio and how they put their sounds together, and it really inspired a lot of what I'm doing now with my partner.
Oh, cool. Yeah, electronic music is getting more popular. It's getting licensed more for sync and television, which is making me really happy. And I didn't mean to interrupt you, but you said,
oh no,
it's been really nice to see. We got asked for some trap music today, trap, hip hop, electronic, even not EDM as much, but it's really nice that now we're getting a lot more requests for that because the music's so popular and the scene, the clubs and the concerts are so big, but it's kind of taken a minute for media to catch up and want to use it as the backbone for an ad or a TV spot, but it's becoming more popular now. Thank goodness.
Yeah, no, it's so fascinating. I think with sound design and just how much variety you can have in your in your songs just by creating music that way. There's obviously a ton of you can do a lot with traditional instruments. When I was growing up, I was primarily playing in like indie rock kind of style bands. But just how much you can expand that sound now with the technology that's out there is just so fascinating. And so I always think of Depeche Mode because I feel like in many ways they were pioneers in that regard. So
totally, yeah. And there's bands before them like Kraftwerk, like there were bands even before them, but Depeche Mode, just the way, even their videos too, and just I agree. It's so great to see them live too. I mean, I was there for the big, riot in LA when they
oh, wow.
I think it was Sunset Records, was Tower Records. I think it might have been Tower Records. And yeah, my job was to take them to MTV and VH1 and get their videos played and actually, take them physically and do interviews with them. And so it was really cool to get to spend time around them and get to know them as people. And I was really proud when they got inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I was sad when Fletch passed. Rest in peace, Fletch. But yeah, they're awesome. I'd love to hear that, Emma, too, that your music is you're inspired by them.
Yeah, they were probably one of the biggest influences for sure. So I'm curious, I kind of want to get can you paint me a picture, I guess, of what does it look like if a particular band comes to mind? Feel free to draw from that. But what does it look like really, like from when they come to you and you're having that first conversation, and like how does the evolution of that person and their sound and everything and just their reach and as they're growing their audience, what does that actually look like? Like, tell me a story.
Okay, so again, you got so many great questions here. What happens a lot of times is, say we take on, a brand new band, right? And I can even just talk about having worked with Atlantis and Green Day and so many. Take Back Sunday, they use My Chemical Romance, Linkin Park. There's so many awesome bands I worked with from that beginning, and there's a pureness and a rawness to all of it, and kind of a what's the word, naivety? I'm not going to say it properly. That and so many questions, right? Questions to be answered, and our job is to really kind of guide you and help you. And with Sync in particular, we're pitching you for any, there's different fees: $5,000, $10,000, $2,000, $200,000. For the developing artists, I always encourage you to say yes to any fee, whether it's $2,000, $5,000, $500. Take the opportunity, take the marketing and the exposure. And my job is to work with you, and as you begin to tour, and as your social media continues to grow, and your Spotify numbers, everything that all the people are looking at, I continue to pitch you more and more. And as your music becomes maybe not necessarily more accessible, but even just more popular, it can often allow us to raise your fees and raise what we charge for your songs. So initially you can start off with a brand new, I mentioned quite a few rock bands. And initially they want marketing. And so they're gonna land, they're gonna get a TV placement and not be picky about the sync. But as you become, a stadium band, or you're My Chem and you're playing, 3 nights at the Forum here in LA, your value goes up, and we can charge so much more for your songs in TV and film. But at the same time, when bands have a passion, and if Gerard from My Chem has a passion, he writes comic books and has developed television programs, and any artist I've worked with, if they have a passion for sports, we always joke that a lot of the rock stars do sports and Victoria's Secret's ads because they all love sports, and they date supermodels that are in Victoria's Secret's ads. Like, the difficult artists do sports and Victoria's Secret's ads. And I won't mention any names. They're not any of the bands that I just mentioned. You really try to find what appeals to them and what they love and what the artist connects with, because you reach a certain point in your career where you can be a little bit more picky, and if there may be, a an independent film, and a huge artist who's used to getting hundreds of thousands of dollars can say, you know what, I'm going to go do this independent film. I don't care. They only have $10,000. I'm going to do it. I love this director. I love this script. I want to license my song. So, you always make that exception for those artists that get to a certain level to find something that they care about. But at the same time, too, developing artists, I try to get you guys to say yes to most placements, and obviously not put you up for anything that, and I say put you up, I mean submit your music for anything that you don't feel comfortable with. A lot of artists, some artists don't want alcohol, maybe they're sober, they don't want to be associated with the military, they don't want to be associated with alcohol brands, they don't want to be associated with scenes in television that have too much maybe horror in them. So I'm always mindful of that. But I would take your band, get your music. I would probably have you submit 4 or 5 of your best songs. And I know I'm giving you a lot of information here, but initially, when you were going to a pitching agent, to a manager, a label, anybody, I don't send the full album, right? It's a lot of music to get through. They will ask for more when they want to hear more music. You've got your chance. Send them your best 3 to 5 songs. And people say, oh no, they're all my babies. I love all of them. But at the end of the day, you kind of know what your stronger tracks are, right? So you're going to get that one shot. You want to send a sync agent or anybody 3 to 5. Don't send 10 to 12. Too much. We always come back and ask for more if we're interested. So you want to be respectful of people's time. You want to send polite emails. You want to check back in maybe 3-4 weeks later if you haven't heard from them. Sometimes you can put something funny in the title to get people's attention. You can put something quirky in the bed of the email, a meme, something personal. If I notice that you've been connecting and you've been watching that, wow, Wendy really seems to love birds and Wendy's really seems to be into flowers. Like if you personalize an email and you go, and now it's so easy to find information on people, go research the person that you're sending your music to and get to know a little bit about them. And then you can make a couple comments when you reach out, and it gets my attention. That's for certain. It's not that standard cookie cutter email. And a lot of music supervisors are getting 100 emails, at least a day, maybe 200 emails a day. So how do you stand out? How do you have your emails stand out? It's really important.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So, you've spoken about, helping place bands in many forms of the visual media industry, whether it's movies and trailers and shows and video games. I'm just curious, where have you seen the most success in placing artists? And do you see any of that changing with today's age? Like I know the video game industry exploded during the pandemic because so many people are at home playing video games. So I'm curious, what's the ebb and flow of that like, and where have you found the most success?
I think with truly music, there is so much television right now. It's amazing. You used to have network TV that had pilot seasons, and there was repeat season, and now the game, with the exception of the writer's strike, and that's for another conversation, there's so many opportunities for television. I would have to say that our volume of music, and where I really encourage a lot of bands to focus on, is having their music placed in TV. And obviously film also, but if you think about it these days, you've got your 2.5 hour film, but when you watch television, it's almost like you're getting 10, 12, 14 hours of a film. The actors, the quality, the director, the budgets, they're so beautifully shot, written, directed. So I really encourage artists to watch TV and to be open to streaming opportunities. And I feel like TV is a great place to develop. We also pitch a lot of music for ads. So right now with the writer's strike, we're focusing a lot on ads because they're still busy. It's not affected them. We also are doing a lot of outreach with NBA finals just happening, or the championship just happening. We pitch to the NBA. We're getting ready for baseball. We'll get ready for the NBA and start putting together our playlist for sports. So we do a lot of sports activity pitching ESPN and Fox Sports and NASCAR and NHL and NBA, all the TV outlets, and then probably advertising. So those are the three for Truly. That's not to say that we also don't pitch for promos and trailers, but there's a whole other conversation to be had about trailerizing music, that big epic kind of bombastic sound, Emma, that you've heard when you're watching a trailer for like a Marvel film or the next Batman movie. It's called trailer music. You can find it on Spotify under like epic music. So that's sort of it's another class or conversation unto itself, but we do a lot of trailerizing. We do a lot of taking a song and adding and building out the string arrangements and making it, adding orchestral elements. So that's another area that we do quite well in also. And then you kind of nailed it with video games. Video games would be a full-time job for just one person because there's so much happening with bands performing and within the AI opportunities that are happening and the AR opportunities that are happening. It's pretty amazing in the metaverse with, all that's sort of going on in there. And the music industry, believe it or not, we're trying to figure out how to license our music and how to make money and how to monetize in these metaverses. And that's still kind of the unknown area. But as we grow, we figure it out. We figure out the licenses, and we figure out, and we kind of learn together what the fee should be like in these AR spaces, right? Where fans are listening to music and bands are playing. So it was a really good question. And I just feel like they're all so massive right now, with the exception of TVs. TV's gotten a little quiet, and it's really going to hit us now that nothing's in production. We were pitching for a while and shows that were still happening, like they were, but now the strike, I mean, it's a bummer. I want the writers to get compensated fairly. So I think it's going to be a minute for TV before TV is back. But if I could, I would hire someone just to focus on video games, because there's so much there. And there's so many companies, video game companies. Mostly it's royalty based. We do pitch to like Rock Band Discovery, and you get paid based upon the number of times that your song is streamed within a game. So it's not a ton of money, but it's great exposure.
Yeah. Video games are one of my other passions. It's actually what I do for my main job is I actually write about video games for a living. So.
Oh, awesome. Oh, yeah. So you know all the new games ahead of time. You and I need to talk later.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Cool.
Obsessed with video games, but
there's so many. It's hard to keep track. We deal with like Riot Games is one of my clients. We're going to be pitching the tracks from Arcane. We're going to be taking all of their songs and they're going to come into our catalog, and we're going to be pitching their songs back out for TV placements, trailer placements, promo placements, obviously no video game placements, but they're just one of our new clients that signed on. So we're really excited about that and waiting for audio delivery from them to help them monetize the music that they own.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, and how good was that Arcane show on Netflix?
I know, amazing, right? God, the soundtrack was killer. I know right now they're working on the next one too.
Yeah, I can't wait.
Yeah, cool.
Well, I know this is kind of a big question, and there's no easy answer to this one, I'm sure. But if an artist could take away one thing, just glean one thing from you on like how to take themselves from ready to launch to taking that big first step and starting to find success in this industry, what would that thing be? Like, what's the one thing they could take away?
It kind of goes back to me for that that remembering that we're a small community. We all need to support one another. Be willing to know what your limitations are. I have to tell certain artists, or say I'm doing a consultancy or I'm in a class, I have to tell people that maybe their vocals aren't that strong, but I think you're a really great songwriter. And have you thought about working with a different vocalist, or did you take vocal lessons? You have to sort of know what you're good at. And practice and hone your craft, right? Musicians, guitar players, drummers, bass players, any instrument you're going to play, you're going to practice. So I think it's about creating the best music you can, and knowing and being able to admit if you have an area that you need support, you need help in, versus thinking that your music's the shit, the bomb, and just because you work so hard on it for so many hours, assuming that people are going to like it. So there's like a humbleness to it that I know that I respect, and I respond to people that are humble and kind and approachable, and gracious. You always want to be gracious to people when you have their time, because everybody in the music business is, there's like more to do and less people doing it seems like. So everybody that you meet and you get connected with, I think it's about just showing gratitude for the time that you have with them and showing them that you're appreciative.
Yeah.
I hope that helps. It's kind of a lot of ways to answer that question, but
yeah, for sure. It was definitely a loaded one, and I appreciate you saying it beautifully. Yeah, and I can agree. I mean, I think that's so important. Artists can be very, sometimes I know from personal experience in the past, you spend so much time and your whole heart goes into something. And so it can be hard to get that critique, but it's invaluable to hear that, especially from somebody who, is in the industry and hears a ton of music and kind of knows what it takes to make something successful. I think like the more open you can be, the more you can grow and evolve your sound.
Yeah, it's so important. We all need to listen to that. And I'm telling you, the biggest artists in the business have been rejected. Tom Petty would tell stories. I mean, Katy Perry, like everybody's got these insane stories of being rejected from their labels or having people pass on their records, like so many, and they went on to be superstars. So you have to take the feedback with a grain of salt, but you have to also hear someone there's constructive feedback about your music and the type of music. Take it with a grain of salt. And if you feel like the person's just wrong and that you feel passionate about what you're doing, stay on your path. Take that constructive feedback if you trust the person and you think it's worth merit, but really stay true to your vision. Don't give up.
Yeah.
Don't give up.
Yeah, believe.
You have to really be persistent. It's like eat your Wheaties and get your sleep and get up and just keep going at it. And you're going to have days where good stuff's going to happen and days where it's quiet and it feels like nothing's happening and you're like frustrated or pissed off at one of the musicians in the band, or something weird is happening, or they're being lazy, or they're not working as hard as you are. But you know what? You have to just persevere and push through it and get up on stage and play and watch the reaction from the fans, and just ignore the trolls online too, because they're out there critiquing everybody and all the musicians. So you have to learn to just really ignore that and separate yourself from that too. I think it's important so it doesn't get to you.
Yeah. Awesome.
Right.
Well, thank you so much. Those are all my questions, but I just wanted to say I just appreciate you spending some time with us. And, I've personally learned a lot. I hope other people really take a lot from this too, but I'm very inspired and I can't wait.
Good. Yeah. I look forward to hearing your music. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can find me on Instagram. It's Truly Music. You can find me on Instagram, and people sometimes DM me there. And if I've got time, I'll take a listen when I can. And LinkedIn is another good place to also network with people in the music industry.
Awesome. I will be friending you on both.
All right. Okay, great.
Awesome, guys. Thanks so much, Wendy, for joining us, and Emma as well. This has been such an enlightening conversation for me as well. And I look forward to more of these conversations in the future.
Great. Pleasure. I really enjoyed it. Emma, great to meet you, and Ethan. I look forward to coming back, and best of luck to you, Emma. It's great to meet you.
Yeah,
All
great.
Right. Thank you, Ethan. All right.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.
Bye.